Hello viewers, this is Mithul here. Today we will be covering about module 5 data control language commands. So let's get started. In this we will be covering 5.1 which will be users, 5.2 will be roles, 5.3 we will be covering the permissions for the server level, database level, all three of them. So let's just start with the 5.1 users. Now in the module 5.1 users, there are two kind of users that can be created at a SQL Server level. Okay, the first one will be at the server level user, and the second one can be created at a database level. So the server level user which we create, why we create that is to log into that particular SQL Server instance. Okay, now that instance can be connected via multiple ways using the SQL Management Studio. Okay, SQL Server Management Studio. Now two of the ways I am just listing here, like Windows authentication and SQL authentication, very standard way of using that, but there are a couple other ways as well. So we can see them in the like query, through the queries. Okay, so in a short while we'll see to that. Now the example for that, you can see how it appears in the UI in the SQL Server Management Studio is like in a screenshot here. Now how the database users and why this database user. So after you log into the SQL Server, right, there are some of the activities that you manage at the server level, the same way you manage the activity at the database level as well, right? So for that sake, you may need to have an access to the database. Okay, so for that purpose, this is the user that you may need. Okay, after this server user. Okay, so the example for that could be like test user, any user you would like to create, right? Maybe the same name user, unless like the essay, right? But any other specific username that you can give and have it created. Now in the module 5.2 we will be covering about the SQL Server roles. Now like we created the users, so user will perform certain actions, right? So according to their actions, we have two categories over here. One will be server roles and the second will be database roles. So server roles will be what, right? That will be like a system defined roles. By default, SQL Server has defined couple of roles which can be assigned to a user based on the action they perform for a particular activity, right, to manage the server. So these all are kind of the roles which are available in the SQL Server, right? The server roles, the bulk admin, the DB creator, disk admin, all of this, right? Like this sysadmin, all of these are very standard. So out of that, like the sysadmin is the main one who has the entire access on the SQL Server. Okay, now the second kind of roles will be database roles. So how this kind of roles are there? System also defines the database level roles as well, and those are specific to the activities that user can manage at the database object level. Okay, so various kind of database objects are there. So to operate them, to manage them, to maintain them, right, user may need an access to a certain level of database roles. So according to the roles, there are very standard ones which are like DB data reader, right? So that will give you the readability access. Then the DB data writer, which will give you the writing access, like read write operation, and both that you can perform. Likewise, you can have the DDL admin permissions. So for the database operations, like the DDL commands that you perform, right, for all of those kind of actions that you can perform using this role. And then couple of the other roles which are of like to deny the access to a certain thing, right? All of these kind of access are there. So let us we'll see in a short while in a detail, like how the queries can be written against them. And 5.3, which we will cover up for the permissions. Now in the permissions, what is the permission, like how which kind of permissions that we can grant, right? So in a SQL Server, to maintain that, right, in a combination of server level as at the same time database level, both kind of permissions we have available, and using the grant, deny and revoke statements, we can apply those kind of permission or revoke that kind of permissions. Now, what is grant? Grant is to grant the one or more permission to a particular the particular role, maybe a particular database, particular server, particular database object, right? Like that can. Then same way, like deny. Deny is to deny the principal. Principal, where we say like principal, right? So principal you understand as if like a login, maybe the server, maybe the database, maybe the schema, right? Maybe the role, right? Any kind of objects that you identify, that will be known as a principal here, from having one or more permissions. Okay, so you can deny them temporarily. Okay, we can say like that. And then the revoke is just like whatever you granted to a particular user as a permission, or maybe whatever you denied for a user, right? All of those things will be completely wiped out, or maybe we can say like a removed from the system. That is the revoke kind of permission. Okay, so let us just see them in the database now. Okay, now there are two ways I will help you understand how you can manage these things, right? At the server level login, how you can create, and the same way database level login, how you can create. First of all, we will learn or see how it can be created from the management studio, and then we will see by the scripting side. So you will have understanding of both the ways, right? So let's just go here in the SQL management studio, go to the branch here at the security, which is the, and expand the branch. Here you see like this login and the server roles. So the login that you see is a kind of a server level login or server level users. Okay, so all of these are a different purpose. By default SQL Server creates this kind of anti-service and all. So those kind of service level like service accounts, those kind of things that the SQL Server by default installs, whereas this one is like a particular to a system like the SQL Server, wherever the instance or the wherever the SQL Server the software is installed, right? That server domain name and then the particular user who has logged in or who can log in to this server. So that is the Windows authentication username. Likewise, this is a SQL Server administrator. So these two are the different kind of or the standard way users that is provided by the SQL Server only. We don't need to create both of these. But if your organization requires as per their need or as per the group, they will allocate the users and grant them permission here in this login section. Okay, now here how can we create the login? Just right click on it and then the new login. So right here, if you want to create, say like SQL user, right? If you want to create the SQL user, you want to create the Windows you want to create a user of which kind, that is the option here. All of these are options. One, either you can create the this is the login, but login using which kind of login? You want that login to use the Windows authentication, or maybe you want like an Entra ID, means like the cloud side, right? All this kind of authentication, or you want the SQL Server authentication. So we will go ahead with the SQL Server authentication. We give the password over here. I'll again type in same way, confirm password. Here is the like enforcement of the password policy, password expiration, or user must change the password at the next login. So DBAs usually check this option so that user, once the user is created at their first login, they can change the password as per their convenience. Initially they will give it a default password. Okay, but if you create for your own sake, then you can uncheck it for your benefit, so that you don't have to every time we don't have to go and check the password or change the password, right? So that you can check, and then you can apply all these other options also, but this is for the roles, this is for the user mapping, right? All of these are different purpose specific options which are there, like you can apply the permissions also according to that. So all these are like options that I'm leaving you to explore. We will go by mostly for by the scripting side, okay, so that you can easily understand. I'll not create it here, but I'm just showing you how you can create it. If you just say okay, then this login will be created here. If you just want to see, let me just create it, okay? So okay, now we just created the SQL user, right? So now this SQL user is created, like I have created the essay, right, by default system administrator, right? So that is how I have logged in. Now there will be another kind of login that I can use, which will be like SQL user, and it will have the password for that. Okay, I will put in my username, select the authentication as SQL Server authentication, put the user login, what you just created, and then use the password according to that. So then you are connected to using that login. Okay. So now you see, like you can see the login which you created and the other login which is of generic kind, which the like the current the system administrator login, right? Those kind of logins you may see. Now you may also see to the databases which are available, but you may not have the access to those databases in the case when you just created the user, right? Now to get an access to those database as well, you need to apply roles for that, right? So because we just created the user here, right, we did not create the role for that, right? Or we did not assign a user to a role, or we did not map that role for a user, right? So let us just go to the security here again, go to the SQL user, right click, properties, and then you can go to the server roles. At the server level, you can apply any specific level of permission. If you do not want, you can leave it, and you can go to the database level access. Suppose like if I have a database level like a learning DB, okay, now if I want to get an access to this learning DB, right, currently I am not able to see anything. Okay, maybe it's there, we just remove it if it is there. Okay, because I am into this essay, so I am able to see. But just understand, like if you are in your SQL user, you may not be able to see any of the database objects. So see the difference. By default, as an essay, like the system administrator, I can see all these tables, but you are not able to see the tables which are created or which are available for you to see, right? So to do that, how you can get an access to this? I need to go to the particular user, create the user for that as well. So SQL user with the login. Okay, I want to create the user as at a database level as well. The username I want to give it like SQL user, and then I will give a login name to that. Login name will be say like SQL user we will use, right, because it is the login user using which we want to create this database user. So we can select that and then say okay. So by default, if you want to assign any schema for the user, then you can assign like any of the schemas available, right? That you can assign to that user, particularly like any of this schema. Maybe you want to assign a DB or DWH or any specific one, right? You want to assign that, you can do. Just a minute, yeah. Okay, so we will not touch anything else for this. Like we'll just create this user. And now as the user is created, we will go to the particular data reader here, right click on it, go to the properties, and then try adding that user, right, from this list here. Just select that list and that user and say add. Okay. Okay. So here the user is added as a particular SQL DB data reader, right? That permission is applied for him, that role is assigned to him, DB data reader. So now that we should be able to have an access to that database now. So far, like, we were not able to see to the database objects. Now as we just go in here and refresh it, now as you just expand this branch, you are able to see to the database tables, right? This is how you can apply the roles for that. So first of all, what we need to do, first of all, you go to the server, create the security login, and particular SQL Server or Windows authentication or any particular identity specific login that you create over here. Once you are done with the login creation, come to the database level, because that was at the server level that you created the user. Then you may need to assign a user a particular database specific access, right? So for that, come to the particular database and then right click on it, or just expand the branch, go to the security. For that, go to the users tab here, create the same kind of user here like you created in the security for the server level. Once the user is created, go to the roles at the database level roles, right? These are the database level roles. Go to the database level roles, whichever role you want to apply the you want to add the user, you right click on it, go to properties, and then here, like in this list down below, you can add it as a member, okay, member of this role. So let's say like any other user you would like to add, then go to here, browse for it, check that option and say okay. So that user will also get added to this member listing, and then he will also have an access to this particular database, right? That is how you will do. So the same way how you achieve this functionality through the SQL Server Management Studio, you can apply at using the script also. So let us just understand using the scripting way of implementing it the same. Now as we see the create login, right? Like the server side login, how we created it, right? So the same way, this is the script. I will not execute, but I will just show you how it can be created. So just as a syntax, this is what the syntax to it. So SQL Server login, how you can create at the server side. This is the login for that. Create login, then login name with password equal to and in single quote type in the password whichever you want to give it, right? That will be the password, and then say go for it. Then it will create the login user. Likewise, you may need to create the database user, right? So how can we create the database user? It can be created using the SQL authentication. It can be used using the Windows authentication, or we can create without any login, right? There are a couple other patterns. I'm not going with that. You may go with the Microsoft documentation that I'll provide you a link with, so you can go in a detail like for the other kind of logins how you can create. So basically these three of these ways you can create the database level users, right? Out of which this is the way we have created the SQL user at the database level. Here what we just saw, right? Yeah, this user, this is how it is created, okay, using this syntax. Now after this we have the kind of roles, what kind of roles we have in the system. There are two roles as I explained you, right, in the PPT earlier. So there are two kind of roles. One is the server side and the other is the database level. So server side roles can be applied using the create role and then role name, right? And then the database level role, like the database level role will be like create role name, authorization, and then the username, and then say go. Okay, so it will create the particular role using the authorization, means like the particular Windows authentication or say particular username, okay, whatever user you may have created in the previous step. whatever username you have created, like SQL authentication or maybe Windows authentication, that user you will use it here. Okay. Then you may need to assign a user to this role. First you create the user, then you create the roles or align the roles, and then assign those users to the particular roles. Okay, so that user will have a particular access. So alter role, then role name. Add member means like we are adding a user to a particular role, and role already has a given permission. What kind of operation at a server level user can perform, that is already defined within this role by the system. So that is what we are doing. We are just altering this role and adding this member, right? And likewise the database level role also we just saw, right? So here in this list, right click on it, and then you can create the new role, or if there is any existing role, you can add the user or add the user as a member to it. That is what we have done here. Alter role name, add member, username, like that is the syntax. Okay. Then the third way, which is the granting a permission to the role. Now we have created the user, we have created the roles, right, at the server level, at the same time database level. Everything is fine and set correctly. Now what we want to perform is, we want to grant particular role and access to a particular kind of permission. Now how can we give that? Is this like granting a permission to the role is also possible through two ways. The first one can be the server level, the second one can be database level. The server side level role, how we can assign or grant the permission is grant permission. Different kind of permissions will be there. The SQL will be keyword, and then to role name, particular role name, whatever role that you have created, that role name you will assign to this command here, and then say go. So it will create the server side, it will grant the permission at the role level. Okay, same way database level role. So grant permission on how many kind of principles, as I earlier said, right? Like how many kind of principles means like the how many different kind of objects which can be assigned a permission at the database level, right? So grant permission on login. Say like if there is a login that you created at the server side, right? That login you want to assign a permission. Then on this login, the database object level means like the under database you may have store procedure, trigger, right, views, all of those kind of an objects will be there. So those kind of objects to which you want to grant a permission, then you can grant the permission on those objects. Roles will be like this kind of roles, like the server role or the database role. Whatever role that you may have created here, that is the role we are talking about here. The schemas, right? Various kind of schemas are there in the system. So what kind of schemas in the system are there, right? So we can see like this kind of schemas are there, like DWH test, all these, right? So all these kind of schemas can be there, or we can assign the permission to a particular user or a group of user. Okay, that also we can use in the syntax. Just mention the keyword here instead of mentioning everything else, right? These all are the optional things that I have separated them by pipes so you can understand them. Like any one of them can be used. Okay, and then say double colon and then give the class name. Means the particular user, say if I selected user, then give a username here. If schema, then give a schema name. If role, then role name, right? Object, then object name. Like that you will mention up here, and then say to a particular role, the role that you just created. Okay, so that is how you will assign the database level roles as well. Now after you assign the permission, say like you assign a permission at the schema level. Let's say a test kind of schema that you created and assigned a permission to that schema. Okay, now you assigned a permission to the schema, but now schema is a kind of a large object which may contain number of tables or number of store procedures or number of views or number of some functions or something. So all of those will be falling under that. Now you have given at a high level permission, right? So now what you need to do is like you want to restrict not for all of the objects, but you want to restrict to a particular level, like a database object, right? That you want to restrict. So how you can restrict? You can restrict them by the server side role as well. So deny permission, then SQL to, and then the role. Okay, so that is the server side restriction that you can apply using the deny. And say like at the database level, if you want to apply the restriction, then you can apply the deny permission on same kind of objects what we just listed up here. Okay, like the same kind of principles. Then give their alias or give the name to that, and then say to role name. That is how you can deny them. Like out of say like 10 tables suppose are there, right? Out of those 10 tables, there are 2 tables to which you want to restrict a certain kind of permission. You do not want user to have an access to those 2 tables. Okay, so in that case you can come here and then restrict those particular 2 tables, right? Those 2 tables by denying them, so that user to the role, so that user will not have an access to those 2 tables. Okay, how can we do that? I'll show you just in a minute. Now the third type of permission, how we can give it is like after we restricted the deny, after we restricted the user for a particular permission, say like we want to revoke the complete permission. Whatever we have granted, whatever we have denied, instead of everything, like we just want to revoke completely from the user or from the role. We want to revoke the permission. How we can do that? There is a revoke syntax. So revoke permission SQL at the server level to role name, like that at the server side. And from the database side, you can use the same way. Keywords are just getting changed. Rest of the things remain same. No change in the syntax. Just change the keyword, deny, revoke, or say grant, right? Any of them is the same. Just the keyword gets changed. So it will be very easy. Now let us just try seeing all of them together, you running this script. Okay, how, and test it, like how we can implement the same kind of users and role using this script. Okay, now we may have the objects available already since we just manually created over here, right? Let me quickly go and remove them. Okay, yeah, I may have used in the role, so I need to remove the roles first. Okay, so I may need to go to the security roles, remove this. Before this, remove the DB data reader, go to here, go here, remove it. Okay, so yeah, what happened? Okay, all right, now say remove this user as well. Okay, it's failing somehow. So let me just try using this scripting way, so it can be removed. Okay, because we are we are in the SQL user. For that reason, it may not allow me to remove anything, because I am the user and I am trying to remove all this from my bad. Actually, I should not be using this one. Instead, we should be using our full access, like as a SQL Server administrator, whatever is the SQL login, right? Whoever has whoever has more privilege than you as a user, right? So then go to that particular login, expand the branch, and then try to revoke the permission from this database level first. So from this roles, we will just remove this. First of all, SQL user, we will remove. Say OK. Then go to the users and then remove the SQL user, delete it, and then come to the security outside of the SQL Server login label, right? There we had created the SQL user. So let's we did not apply any server roles to this user, so we will just have to remove this user only. Okay, so just remove this. Okay, we need to log out of that session, otherwise it may not allow us to delete. So let me just log out or disconnect the session. Okay, now it will allow to delete. We already deleted that, right? Let's see why it is showing that. Maybe it's there in the cache or so. Let me just see once again to if there is any user left with that or not. No. Roles also is not there, right? We already removed it, so nothing is referring that. So ideally it should be removing it now. Okay, let me just try once again and remove this. No, it's not. Let me just disconnect all of these sessions first. Okay, disconnect this and once again connect the SQL login using the SA. Yeah. And now we will again try to remove that, because we may be having that user's reference here, right? For that reason it was not letting us remove that user. Now it should remove. What is the error here? It says could not drop login as the user is currently logged in. Now there is no login that we see. SQL user. What is the problem here? Okay, any window open here for the access? Nothing, right? Just disconnect and say connect once again. Go to the this thing SA connect and say refresh. Right, and then go to security here. Server roles, we definitely did not assign any roles to this, but let me double check if there is anything that I have accidentally added. Okay. Nothing, right? So there is nothing as such for that user that we assigned. Okay, in a public also we did not have anything here, and then we go to the SQL login here to remove this login. Okay, let us just try using the scripting way. Okay, hopefully that will help in this case. So let me just create the required objects that we need to create. Okay, first of all, let's go to the SA here and then create. Okay, now let me just give it a try using the Windows authentication once and see like if that solves the problem. That should not happen. Okay, now then try once again. Okay, yeah, it has got removed now. Okay, So this is how you just have to try out. Sometimes like it may get tweaky. Okay, so we may have to try the alternatives, whichever is available with us. Okay, so but that may be very limited because you as a user might not require to do all this kind of operation, and the DBA person will assist you mainly for this kind of activities. But just as a knowledge, side knowledge, you need to have that understanding at least. Okay, so now as we removed all of those unnecessary things that we needed for the script to run successfully, we removed it, and now let us just run the script again. Let's just select the learning DB and say execute. So basically what I'm doing here is like I'm just removing any of the database objects like the tables or schemas, whatever are there, right? Maybe I had it created earlier for the previous sessions or for practice sometime. So let me just remove all of them and then recreate it. So now we can start from the fresh. So say like we want to create the login user now. How can we create it? Expand this branch, verify that is there any user for the same name? No. SQL user is what we want to create that. Similar way you can create it here, the same way you can create it from SSMS also. How we created earlier, right click, new login, say like SQL user, we selected, right? And then we have selected this SQL authentication here. We gave it a password from here, SQL user, right? And then we gave the confirm password SQL user. Now as we selected all of this, whatever we needed, then what we need to do, or if you do not know or in a rush you do not want to type all these commands and everything, right? There is a shortcut for that in the SQL Server Management Studio. It provides you the option here to create the script. Instead of using this Management Studio, say like you want to create a script for that, and that script you want to execute like this, you can have it created using this option. Go here, select the whichever option you are comfortable with. You can just select like a script action to clipboard. You selected the command in the the clipboard, and then paste it here. Okay, so then it will give you the command entirely. Whatever option you choose, according to that it will give you the syntax, or just write the command for you or the script for you. So you can just run the same script from here, or from the SQL Server Management Studio also you can create the scripts. Some of the options are there, but not for each and everything. But this is how you can create and say run from the SQL Server Management Studio, and it will create the user for you. Okay, so that we just created. Okay, now let me just remove this. Now we just got this created at this SQL Server login. Now we want to create the database level login, right? Database level user. So what I'll do, I'll just run this use as a standard command, like use as learning DB. We want to use that database so that we can create the user under this database, right? For this database only. Now I'll double check by running this, like if there is any user called SQL user. If it is there, then it will remove. But if I will run now, it may throw the error because we are sure that there is no user called SQL. So now I'll just directly run this command. Create user, username, for login, login name. Okay, for login, role name. So this is the role name, sorry, username. So this is the login, which is what you just created at the server side, and this is the login at the database level. Okay, so don't forget that. Same name may confuse you as well. This is the outside one, is the login which you created exactly, and this may be the database level user. Okay, so let's just run this. Okay, so database user also is created. So we can just go here and say refresh. So we can see the SQL user at the server side, and at the database level, go to the learning DB, say security, go to the users and see SQL user is also created like we have it here, right? Now what we want to do is we want to see now how can that user or okay, just a minute, let me think what I want to perform here. Okay, maybe I will not run this script for now. We will run this after some time. Okay, what we can do is, like, we just created the users. Now we want to assign the users to a particular role, right? So now let us just understand the syntax. Now we already saw, right? So let's just run the syntax. Create server role, then server name, or the role name, right? So how you can run create server role test role, right? This is how you will run the command. So it will create the role at the server level, then the second one will be database level role. So we create both the level roles here. So server level roles also created. So now you can see those roles created under the database level here, right? So test database role here, and then security here should also show you the server roles, like test server role as well, right? Both these roles are there now. After that, what we do is we want to assign a user to the role. So far we created the user, we created the roles. Now we want to assign the users to this role. Okay, how can we do that? Alter server role, then role name, add member with the username. Here this is the server level user. Okay, so just run this command. It will add the user to this particular role. Same way, database level role, alter role, database level role name, add member, role name or username, sorry. So this is the username that you added. So this user you want to add to this test database role. So let's just run this. There is also an alternative how you can add the database roles, right? Or any like a server side roles. How you can add it is using this exec. There is a built-in system store procedure sp underscore add role member. By passing the role name parameter, you pass the role name, like what particular role name you pass in here, and then the member name, which is the username. In this case, like a SQL user that we have, right? Same way you can run this. If you did not run, then you can run this as well. Now, after this, we need to apply the permission. Which kind of permission we want to give is, we want to grant the permission, right? So at the server level, we will grant the connect SQL to test server role. Let's just run it. Okay. Okay, it says like currently we are into the particular DB which cannot be write case. In while assigning the permission at the server level, you need to be in the master database. Okay, so let's just select that and then run this command. Okay, so it will run. Then at the database level role, if you want to assign, right, we grant the permission for the database level role. So grant select on a particular schema. What it will allow? Select level access. Okay, select level access for the entire schema called test to this role, which is a database role. Okay, so we will run this as well. Okay, we now need to select the particular database, learning DB. So learning DB selected, and then run this. So it will run. Okay, now we want to test this now. Okay, everything whatever we granted, now we want to test everything. How can we test now? We want to open the login using the user that we created. So let us just go here, go to database engine, select the login as SQL user. Okay, what you created, then you give a password for that as whatever we have given while creating it. We give the password and say connect. So it will create the connection, establish the connection and open it. Now as you see that you are able to connect to it, right? So means like this grant has run successfully. You are able to connect to the SQL Server. Then you want to check like the database level permissions, whatever you have given to it, right? Database level permission, what we have given to it, we have given the access to the entire schema, right? Where is that? We created the role, assigned the user to the role right here, and we granted the schema select. We granted the permission to the entire schema called test. So now we want to check the test, all the test database tables, right? Let's just see here how many objects we have for the schema. So right in here, our case, right, we can see there are two database objects for the schema test. Actually, if you go here and see how many objects are there in the learning DB, there are multiple, right? But to which database objects you have gotten access to is only the ones which has a schema called test, because we have given a permission to you for the test schema only, right? For that reason, the SQL user will get the limited access to only two tables rather than seeing all of those tables, right, which are available in the database. Okay, so now our access has been granted as expected. Now let us just see manually. Now suppose here you are seeing it visually, how you can see like the permissions are there available or not, or this and that. But supposingly you are sitting at the DBA level and you granted a permission to the user, and now you want to test that whether you granted the appropriate permission to the user or not. How you can test it? You can use it like this script. Execute as a user, give the username, say like a particular user, whoever be the user, that username you put in here, say go, and then select the appropriate database and check the particular database level permission that you have given to him, okay, or her, whichever person that may be. So let us just run and see whether we are able to have an access to both of these tables as a user. See, I am logged in as an SA SQL system administrator. I am logged in as a system administrator. I am running this script on behalf of this SQL user, which is another SQL login. Okay, so I am checking, impersonating that particular user's access for the database, what kind of access he may have. Okay, so I am just trying that out. So let me just run and see. Okay, so we have got the access to both these tables where they did not have any data, so that we are not able to see the data, but at least we are able to see to both this table, the first table and the second table under the test schema, right? So both these tables we have an access. Now after you execute this command impersonating that user, always remember to execute revert and go, so that you come back to your original role, or you come back to your original login. Okay, otherwise it may keep you in the same login. So always run this command revert. So now I'm back into the rule here. Then second kind of thing how we can apply is the deny the permission. Okay, now syntax we have seen earlier, but just in an action if you want to see, then this is how you can write it. Deny connect to the SQL server to the particular server level role. Okay, that is the server level role. And the second kind of role will be database level role. Syntax to that will be deny select on a schema name to the particular database level role, and say go. Now here what we are doing, we have given the grant on the entire schema to the user. Now here understand it carefully, that we want to restrict the user for a particular table or say particular database object only. So how can we restrict them? We can restrict the user with this kind of command. Deny select access on a particular object name is test.testTable to this particular role. This is the database level role. Okay, so let us just run deny select on test table. So we have denied the access to this particular user, that he may not be able to get an access to this table. Okay, so but even though the other table, which is that test table 2, he may still have an access to it. We have just restricted him to see to this table only. Okay, so this is how you can use this deny here. Okay, so we granted the we denied the permission on that, and then we will run this select for that. Okay, up till here and see here what it is saying. The select permission was denied on the object test table, which is this. Why? Because we denied an access to this user using the role for the select, right? That is why it is restricting, but the other command has ran successfully. The other select statement ran successfully. How? Because the second table name was test table 2, which is what we can see here, right? Test table 2 has run successfully. So understood how deny is working? So let me just revert it back. Okay, so reverted it, and then now the last thing, which is the revoke. Now revoke also uses the same syntax, only just rest of the things remains same. Just change the keyword here, revoke. Connect, or you want to remove the connection to the from the particular role, so you can remove that. And the database role, if you want to revoke the database level access, so revoke select on the schema, the entire schema level access. If you want to remove for the user, then you can execute this command. So we will run this, execute, and test it. Now we should find error for both of this table, right? Why? Because we revoked the permission from both of this table, so that user may not get an access to both these tables, meaning the entire schema itself, because here the revoke applied on the entire schema called test. For that reason, both the tables which are residing under the test schema may not be accessible to this role. And when we revoke the access from this role, then all the users, whichever whoever are the part or whoever are the member of this role, may not get an access now. Their access has been revoked. Okay, so that is the thing. Now we will just apply the revert so that we are fine back into the session. All right, that's it for the session. Happy learning. Thank you very much.